Good Monday morning. Have you ever been lucky enough to attend, I guess that's, or witness, or be part of a classic Japanese tea ceremony? If you have, you've been very, very lucky. It's very subtle, and at the same time, remarkably consciousness expanding. What you're most struck by, besides its very, very simple, awesomely subtle beauty of the whole experience, because it is an experience, it's just not drinking tea with friends, although it is drinking tea with friends, but on steroids. Now, tea had been really popular in Japan for many, many years, maybe many hundreds of years, since they brought it from China, and people enjoy getting together and having tea together. And it became sort of stylized, just like your grandmother likes to bring out her best tea set and wants everybody to sit in a certain place and have their cookie on a little saucer in just the right way. I mean, we do tea ceremony too. In England, when you're having tea and there's more people who can be accommodated at a table, you're more or less expected to put the teacup and saucer on your knee while you munch your scone or whatever else you're doing. So we have our own tea ceremony, but this is something different. And along about the 16th century, Constance and I both at different times visited the Zen monastery where the tea ceremony, as we kind of know it today, originated. But along about the 16th century, there was a Zen monk, Senyekyu. I'm saying it wrong, but he was a famous guy and a sort of a sage and everything else. And he lived at the monastery, and there was this, excuse me if I get this tale wrong, but the monastery had a beautiful garden, and the garden one day, or it was the time of year when the morning glories were just exuberantly beautiful. And blossoming flowers are a big thing in the Japanese sense of aesthetics, and everybody was really excited, and a servant or somebody came rushing in and saying, "Oh, the whole town here in Kyoto is just, everybody's talking about these morning glories. They're just awesome, you know?" Isn't it cool to have people excited about morning glories? But anyway, Senyaku said, "I got an idea. I'm going to invite the head warlord of all Japan, Toyotomi Hideyoshi. Okay, big guy, badass guy. Okay, but everybody appreciates flowers. Invite him over for tea." Now, usually a tea house is there's enough room for about 6 or 7 people sitting on the floor, and There's a nice little alcove where there's a sort of display of flowers. And sometimes it's an elaborate display of flowers and everything else. And usually the guests come in, and the door is really low. Okay, so you have to get on your knees to crawl into the tea house. So it forces you to make a gesture of humility, that you're entering into sacred space, if you will. The same thing at the Vinland mortuary or mausoleum in Oslo. It's all dark. It's terribly, terribly dark inside. But the door is really low, so you have to bow to go in, and Vingard's ashes are over the door, so you got to bow down to it. But I digress. So you have to bow down and go in, and then you sort of politely compliment on how beautiful that flower arrangement is, and then you sit down, and your guest or your host makes tea for you, and you share it. And it's become relatively stylized, no, highly stylized over the years. And that's what I want to talk to you about today, is the mindfulness of ritual. But anyway, so what Sengoku did when he knew that Hideyoshi was coming, he cut down all of the morning glories. He pruned them, cut them all down, except one, which he saved. And he put that one morning glory with a, beautiful sort of stem, but very simplistic. Instead of a huge bouquet of morning glories, there was just the one, the most perfect one he could find. So when Hideyoshi came, and this is a guy you don't play practical jokes on, okay? I mean, he came to the garden expecting to be delighted by the morning glories. And these guys are warriors, okay? They don't even know if they've got 24 hours to live their whole life, okay? So they're present in the moment. This is why they appreciate so much beauty and subtlety and the moment. They live in the moment their whole lives, because any minute they'll be dead. So anyway, this guy just said, hey, I came all the way from God knows where to come look at the morning glories, and there's no goddamn morning glories. So he was all pissed off. And not only that, but the tea house itself was the smallest freaking tea house he'd ever seen. There was only room for 2 people to just crowd in, sitting on the floor. But anyway, and because that door is so low and you have to crawl on your knees, you have to take off your sword before you enter. I mean, there's no sign that says, can't have a sword in here. No, you can't get in there with a sword. And you got to take it off yourself. So he takes off his sword and straightens out his underpants and kneels down and goes into the tea house. And he looks, the first thing he sees is the single morning glory in the alcove. And he looks at it, and he's going to be mad for a second. And then he gets it. He gets the whole thing. His brain explodes. with this wonderful aha. If he would have seen the beautiful display of all the morning glories out in the garden area, he would have appreciated sort of the whole grouping and everything else. Yes, that's very nice. But he wouldn't have been able to appreciate a single morning glory bloom, because they'd be lost in the clutter of all the other ones, some mediocre, some beautiful. But he wouldn't have been able to focus on just one. And when he saw the single one there, and it dawned on him, this is the coolest fucking thing I've ever seen. I get it. I get it. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then they settled down for tea. Now, tea ceremony has specific magical tools. They're specific tools, and they're very austere. They're very simple. A simple bamboo, long sort of spoon that you reach down into a beautiful but very simple, almost primitive stoneware or pottery. But every move is mindful, and both of you, both your host and the guest, are engaged in every minute moment. And everybody takes their time, and there's water boiling, pure water, and it's warm, and you can sort of feel the moisture and everything. It's a total immersive process. And as you go deeper and deeper and deeper into mindfulness, you become more and more alive. The slurping down the tea at the very end, of course, it's a climactic moment. Of course, the tea is really, really good. There's two kinds, either the clear type or the very, very thick green type. But anyway, as magicians who work with rituals that we do by ourselves for our own edification, or for the first 5 or 10 years of your magical career, you don't know why the hell you're doing any of your rituals. But there's stuff to memorize in a ritual, and once the memory part is over, you can't just feel that you're getting the ultimate bang for your ritual buck just by walking through the ritual. Now, when you do it in public, that's what it feels like. And most rituals that you see being celebrated or performed by another magician with you as a witness, there's a level of artificiality going on, because the person that's performing the ritual feels on the spot, not necessarily stage fright, but you're out of yourself. Oh, I'm doing this as an example, so people, I better do it right anyway. And the mindfulness of what you as a magician should be doing is distracted, to say the least. And this is why when you go to a group ceremony like a Gnostic Mass or something like that, the celebrants of the Mass, they're doing their best to execute this in a way that brings you along into the to the ceremony, but that's what they're meant to do, is to bring you along. How should I be worthy to administer the virtues to the brethren? That's the object of the operation of, say, a Gnostic Mass. So, in other words, the priest and the priestess and the deacon and the child and everything else, they're more or less volunteers to be characters in the congregation's personal magical experience. So, in a way, when you see the priest or the priestess making crosses and things like that, you'll see that maybe their thumb is in a position, and you make 5 crosses on. And in order to do it like a tea ceremony, the Gnostic Mass would last about 4 hours. Okay. But what's 4 hours to eternity when you're doing something like this for yourself? It's the mindfulness. You go to you could call it a magical plane, but it's a plane of your own mindfulness. Now, in private rituals, we always say a magician in the Western kind of Kabbalistic tradition starts off, oh, I learned the pentagram ritual, lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. Okay, there's some gestures. You draw your pentagrams in the air. What do they mean to you? Are you, now that's the elements? Why am I doing a pentagram? And you really got to do some study to have that pentagram mean something to you. And with the greater pentagram ritual, which usually magicians sort of in their sequence of what they memorize and practice, that's sort of the next step. That's where you specifically open up a quarter. You specifically open up a fire quarter or a water quarter or a air or earth quarter, and you use 2 kinds of pentagrams. Spirit pentagram, either spirit active pentagram for the active elements and directions of fire and air, and a passive spirit pentagram. Those are the ones that start at a lower leg and immediately bang into the crotch of the pentagram, thereby sort of making the top point sort of explode, go, ah! But anyway, and there's signs for each one of those. Okay, now you can study those signs and you can say, well, I know why I'm making that sign. But unless you're present while you're making the sign, it's a pretty damn empty gesture. So here is a pentagram ritual where it says, greater pentagram ritual actually here, touching the forehead, say Ata, touching the breast, say Malkuth, touching the right shoulder, say Vegabor. Okay. It looks like, oh, that's your... No, you got to be... How do you touch? Where are your fingers? Well, where are you coming from? Are you coming from here to here? Or are you just swinging your arms around to there? Okay. You got to be mindful of it. Now, during the years where Constance and I were called upon to make suggestions or supervise priests and priestesses and for the Gnostic Mass, I don't know how many people took this advice, but we tell people, go to a Roman Catholic Mass, or better still, go to a Greek or Russian or any other kind of Orthodox Christian Mass. Doesn't matter if you can understand the words. The words mean, they can mean anything. Just look at how the priest walks in. Just look at how the priest holds his hands when he doesn't have something in them. Look how the priest is mindful of every drop of sweat that's dripping off his nose. Watch how he picks up the paten. Does he pick it up with one hand? Does he pick it up with two hands? Where is his eyes while he's picking up? Because those guys have their shit together as far as the mindfulness of a Mass. And magicians could learn a lot from them just by watching an old white bread Roman Catholic Mass, or better still, those Orthodox Masses. How does he hold the cup? Where are his eyes? Does he elevate the cup with his left hand as he holds it up? Where does he raise his eyes? Well, now he's not doing this as an act. He's doing his magic. And we'd all be well served, even if we're not ever going to do a Gnostic Mass or anything else, just to see the mindfulness of a good spiritual ritualist at work. Now, we've got signs too. In the pentagram, greater pentagram ritual, we have to open up that spirit quarter. And so we have two signs, the active spirit sign of like opening up a veil. What are you thinking as you're opening up a veil? Oh, my elbow hurts? No. You're opening up the veil of spirit active. Now you're ready to draw that particular pentagram. And in the passive quarters, you draw the passive portal ritual of closing the veil. And that closing the veil creates the vacuum necessary for you to draw your passive element. But none of it means anything unless you're mindful that all of it means everything. And I guess that's my little sermon for today. I was just totally blown away by thinking about the tea ceremony. But until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself, be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.